It's Aaron Levine, LG Insurance, with another episode of And Insurance. Well, we're talking insurance and insurance today. I have with me Beth Fredrickson. You are an independent reseller of voluntary benefits. Did I say that right?
Correct. I'm a voluntary benefit broker.
I'm pretty good with that. You also represent me and help my staff with some of our voluntary benefits through Aflac.
Correct.
Right? The duck. We have some toys in the back. We'll get to play with them a little bit later. So give me an overview of what you do and where you came from, how you started, and why the duck, and what other than the duck do you represent?
Well, I am, like you, a small business owner that runs an insurance agency that specializes in voluntary benefits. I choose Aflac as the face of my business because the branding of the duck and the support of the Fortune 500 company has proven to be every level of ethics that I like to have in my everyday business. If I make a promise to you as a business owner or a policy holder, I know Aflac will be there to stand behind the promise and commitment that I made to you.
It's an ethical duck.
It's a very ethical duck.
And how long have you been doing?
I've been with insurance my whole adult life.
Okay.
I've been with Aflac for just over a decade.
Okay.
I am proud to say that my operation has grown from being just an individual agent to having a team of voluntary benefit brokers that works in conjunction with my operation throughout multiple states across the country. Our offices are based up in northern New Jersey, in Montville, New Jersey. And as you know, we work with various size business owners every day to help them offer more opportunities for benefits for their employees.
So what is a voluntary benefit, right? We know what medical insurance is, and I know what voluntary benefits are because we offer them to my employees. But give us, what's the definition of a voluntary benefit? Who's it for? What does it do? I know we see the commercials with the duck, and if you break your arm, you're going to get money from a duck. But really, what's the vehicle? What is it?
So your major medical is designed to pay the doctors, the hospitals, and the providers. But we know in the time that we're living in that people have additional out-of-pocket expense and exposure should they have a medical event in their household. So the voluntary programs are designed to help meet the financial gap that they may have as far as an exposure should they have an injury, should they have a major diagnosis like a cancer or critical illness. What many people don't take into consideration is while they're going through their care for recovering from an event, the major medical may have a copay. It may have a deductible. It may cause them to miss time from work. There may be things like transportation expenses. You can't use that Blue Cross card to go through the Easy Pass if you're traveling for medical care. And it sounds silly, but it is truthful that people incur high expenses. Harvard did a study a few years ago, and they found that 60% of the bankruptcies in this country stemmed from a major medical event in the household, and 77% of those individuals had an active major medical plan at the time the event took place. So we know that it may not be enough, and that's why these voluntary programs are so important for people's financial stability.
So I see the benefit for an hourly worker, right? Because if they miss work, they don't get paid. But this also works well for salaried, for white-collar type businesses as well?
Oh, absolutely. Because the reality is that in the times that we're living in, people don't have the nest eggs that they once had.
Right.
They don't have the financial stability. And what's ironic to me, you talk about some of the white-collar industries. Many of them are highly educated, but they don't really understand how the system works. They don't really understand the terminology that means your out-of-pocket exposure means you could have a medical event and owe $7,000.
I mean, they're always smarter than us, especially, in what we do also. Many people are much smarter than what we do, than what we know with respect to their business insurance and their personal insurance. And we let people do what they do. But at the end of the day, it's up to us. And that's why we're bringing this content out there, is to bring the information to where it is and help people consume our content so they understand what we're bringing to the table with respect to the P&C insurance that we offer and then the voluntary benefits that you help us with that we just want to share that it's out there. So what does an employer do that, wants to be kind to their employees and get this set up? What's the process look like? Is there a minimum participation? Does the employer have to pay for it? Give me that whole deal of how this gets set up.
Well, all we need in a group setting is 3 individuals to participate.
Okay.
The employer is given the option to fund the program for their employees or bring it in completely voluntary. All they would need to agree to do is make payroll deductions based on whatever programs an individual may enroll in. And for each of us, we all have different things that strike us as a concern. Mm-hmm. Often when I sit down with an employee, I'll say to them, what do you think about at night before you shut your eyes? What's a concern to you? And you hear stories about people who have a long history of family members that were diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. You have people that are concerned because they're living paycheck to paycheck. And if they had an event, where would the money come from? They don't have the savings they used to have. So the voluntary programs are designed based on what is important to you. We have some people that look for protection should they be out of work, so income protection. Many W-2 employees don't realize that state disability is not a dollar for dollar match to what they're bringing home. Our computers are calibrated to be able to tell you if you're making X amount of dollars, this is what you're going to be missing every month if you only have state disability. They can insure that amount.
So is the disability coverage offered through your firm, through Aflac, short-term disability or more long-term disability?
Our programs are designed for more of the short term,
Okay.
6 months, 12 months. Our programs are not designed for financial planning purposes. They're for keeping an individual whole during an experience of a medical event. The other programs that we have are based on specific events so that they have the ability to insure not only themselves, but their spouse and children who are under the age of 26. One of the things, a misnomer about our insurance programs is many people think that they're quite expensive. Most of our plans are designed to be very affordable. So you'll find that some of them are as low as $5 to $7 a week. Again, depending on how many people you're insuring, the level of coverage you're looking for. Right. But we do have programs that are as affordable as $5 a week.
I'm going back to this disability thing because I'm a big fan of disability insurance policies, right? I'd rather somebody buy a disability policy for themselves than a life insurance policy. True story. The life insurance is great, but you're dead at the end of the day. The disability policy on a long-term disability basis is going to cover you for a life-changing event where you're no longer able to do your job for an extended period of time. And the benefit is going to range anywhere from 2 years till age 67 until you can start collecting the rest of your benefits. So I'm a huge fan of disability. So if I were to take a disability policy on myself and I were to take a 6-month deductible, so to speak, right? I could then fill that 6-month gap with a short-term disability through Aflac, through these voluntary benefit companies, for probably a little bit less money than what I'm paying for on the long-term disability policy, right?
Absolutely. The plans are designed for the short term because when you think about it, you've been in the insurance business for a number of years. Out of all those long-term disability policies that you wrote, what's the percentage of people that have actually needed them? The reality is, on a short-term basis, especially through the pandemic that we're living through, I have seen more disability claims in the last 10 months than I saw in the last 10 years because of the fact that people are experiencing health problems, either COVID or other related health problems because of the stress that they're living under, because of the times we're in.
So not to get into policy language, but there's potential mental health benefit?
There's not mental health, but we're seeing a lot of physical conditions that people are dealing with.
So physical conditions related to stress or COVID or however
COVID, aftermath of it. Unfortunately, in the state of New Jersey, these disability programs have exclusions for mental health diagnosis. But because of the COVID, What we're seeing is people are having ancillary respiratory problems. They're having cardiac issues. They're having vascular issues, pulmonary issues. These are all things that potentially are causing them not to be able to report to work.
Okay.
A disability isn't, I had an exposure and I have to quarantine.
Right.
A disability is based on a medical condition that is certified by a doctor, that it's their expert opinion that you should not be reporting to work while you're recovering from this condition. Another thing is, depending on the demographics of an organization, this disability plan is perfect for maternity. If you have a group of individuals that are in the childbearing age, a short-term disability program is perfect to help bridge the gap for the days and weeks that they're out, while they're delivering their child.
So what types of businesses, and types of employees fit this? So I think, maternity, and I think, younger people, although, I waited till I was a little bit older before we had children. Is it hospitality? Is it schools? Who really benefits? Or could almost any business
Quite frankly,
benefit and treat their employees or help participate with their employees?
Quite frankly, my book of business is diverse from public sector accounts like schools, municipalities, to organizations like insurance agencies like yours, law firms, banks. We also, the building block of Aflac's organization came from the local small business.
Right.
The the shop owner, the restaurant owner, the deli owner. All you need is to have 3 individual employees, whether it be the business owner and 2 employees,
Right.
that are on the books to be eligible for a small business Aflac account. However, we also do offer programs that are based on direct individuals that do not have to be part of a payroll account, because we know that in the times that we're living in, there's a lot of type of different ways that people are making a living now, a lot of independent contractors that are not part of a W-2 payroll system. And we do have programs available to them for specific event type coverage.
So if we go into hospitality and we start talking about these types of businesses and employees that can participate, and if an owner wants to help their staff out and set this kind of program up, which is very simple, and Beth does a great job at getting people enrolled and explaining the different coverages, because I've experienced it and worked with Beth. But a restaurant has such high turnover. What happens when an employee is no longer affiliated with the business? Do the benefits go bye-bye? Do the benefits stay? How does that work with the employee and the employer?
Well, one of the nice features of being eligible to enroll in an Aflac program through an employer-sponsored benefit, you are still the owner of the program. Mm-hmm. So an individual leaves your organization, whether it be their choice to leave, your choice to ask them to leave,
Right.
They are given the ability by Aflac to continue their coverage.
Okay.
They are given the opportunity to pay it on a direct basis, or if they transfer to another account that offers Aflac, it can be moved to that payroll system. Okay. One of the nice things about that is that nothing changes. The benefit level doesn't change, and most important, the premium that was charged based on the group rate is the premium that they're able to take it with them on a direct basis.
And how often do you see employees that disassociate themselves with a former employee continue their coverage?
A very high percentage.
So it's genius by Aflac.
Yes, absolutely.
to keep it going.
Yeah, and when we come in to an organization, and I think you've probably heard me say this, we thank a business owner like you
Right.
for giving us the opportunity to educate your employees, because it truly is. For example, the short-term disability plan is one of the programs that I can't offer somebody on a direct basis.
Right.
So it really is a benefit, whether the employer is choosing to participate in helping with the cost or not. And quite frankly, the majority of my accounts, the business owner is bringing in the opportunity. He's not funding the programs. But it really is a benefit to the employees for working for that organization.
Right. I mean, it sounds great, and it's something that we don't use enough. We don't sell major medical today. We may get back into that marketplace, and then this kind of ties in. But just thinking about the disability piece of it and how that ties into the long-term disability and financial plans and, working with business owners and businesses, there's a huge gap, not a nice gap. There's a huge gap in coverage that's out there. Now, you keep mentioning, and you've mentioned the cancer coverage. So you have a laundry list of different types of policies, right? Because everything is very specific with whether it's short-term disability or if is there a life insurance product also?
We have a life insurance product.
There's a cancer product. Isn't there like an eye care product? You have like all vision, right? You have all types of different things. So what are your top 3 favorite ones? And I'm sure one of them is the short-term disability.
Well, I personally write a lot of short-term disability. I think it's important. We buy insurance on everything today, right? We have a cell phone. We have a contract on it. We have extended warranties on our vehicles. But the thing that keeps our household going is our income, and it's not protected properly. So I am a big proponent of short-term disability. I also feel that today people have a larger out-of-pocket exposure with their major medical. So the hospital confinement plan helps bridge the gap for some of those deductibles and out-of-pocket expenses you might have. And obviously, cancer is a subject that's hard to discuss with many, but the reality is statistics show 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their lifetime. And from my experience in the last decade of seeing the amount of cancer claims that have been opened for policies that I've written, I think those numbers are right on target.
So how does that coverage work? What do I get for it?
For example, if, God forbid, you were to be diagnosed with cancer, at the time of the diagnosis of your internal cancer, Aflac would write you a check for a lump sum based on your diagnosis, a benefit that's built into the program. Then from there, depending on which program you've elected to enroll in, we could potentially have continued benefits for care and treatment every step of the way, from radiation, chemotherapy, hospital confinement, surgical procedures, follow-up care that may include, rehabilitation, reconstructive surgery, on and on and on, including.
Does it include the lost income, or that would be on the disability?
That's a separate.
That would be on the disability policy, most likely, right?
What we do is like a Chinese menu. So when we sit down with an employer and we discuss what plans we're going to offer at your organization, we then, when we do the presentation to the staff, we say, okay, what may be important to you with a young family may be different than some of your other staff. And they get to pick like a Chinese menu. Do you want soup? Do you want an egg roll? What would you like? What would make you feel a little more secure when you put your head down on the pillow?
Peking duck? Sorry, bad joke. All right, so give me, what's the most obscure type of policy that you've seen Aflac or any of your other companies offer?
Well, in the voluntary market now, we talk about pet insurance and, you can insure anything today, right? Just about.
Just
right?
about. I don't know. The reinsurance market is going a little crazy right now.
One of the things that I like to focus my business and when I talk to individuals is the most important thing is to keep their daily finances whole while they're going through an experience. So whether that be an injury, and again, your major medical is going to pay your providers. But what people don't take into consideration, often when somebody gets injured, for example, and they're supposed to go for physical therapy, and they get a prescription for 10 physical therapies, and they only go for 3 because they realize that every time they have to go, they have to write a check for their copay, and that makes them not go. I want to make sure that we're protecting the risk that they may have as far as financial decisions of why they won't follow the medical care.
Got it.
Our cancer program, for example, that lump sum benefit would give somebody the opportunity. I know if it was myself or one of my children, I would want to go to the cancer treatment center that specializes in that type of cancer. That facility could be right here in Monmouth County, but it could be in Philadelphia, New York, Ohio. There's an expense related to getting to that. You can't use your major medical card to get on a plane. To travel. So the lump sum benefits that the Aflac program gives somebody, it allows them to make decisions. Not that the money takes the pain away, but it frees them from one area of stress while they're making their decisions on how and where they want to get their treatment. Another thing about our programs is we're never going to dictate where you have to get your care to be able to be eligible for your benefits. You'll always be able to pick your provider and where and how you want to get your treatment.
That's awesome.
Which I think is important, especially in today's times.
Right. Having that, that freedom, right? That freedom to choose, that ability to get care without worrying about the additional expenses, I think is tremendous. That ability to have that financial freedom, so to speak, should an event occur, I think is an important message, and I'm glad we're able to get that message out there. It makes me rethink my benefits program for myself and for my family. I know you've mentioned that there's coverage for children as well, and we don't think of children as financial contributors to our household income, but they sure are debtors to our financial household. So how does it work with some of the children coverage? Like, is it, well, I have to take off now because my child has an event or an episode, something happens, and I can't go to work, right? And I incur these expenses. Is that what it's for?
Well, again, it's infusing capital into your household. The reality is that the Aflac benefits, the checks are written right to the policyholder. So if you deposit that money in your checking account and you're using it to pay medical expenses, great. But if you need to use it to hire additional child care, or you need to use it to supplement because, we were talking about certain industry models that are hourly paid employees, and at certain times of the year, maybe they don't have a lot of paid time off accrued. The reality is if the Aflac check is deposited into their family's bank account, it will help with expenses that they have. And we're never going to tell you what you need to do with the money. We're just going to make sure that it's there to make you feel a little more secure.
There's one other thing as part of the program. Every year, Aflac provides money, right? There's a check for a well visit.
There is.
Right?
We have 2 programs that we offer in the state of New Jersey that will give you, actually 3, that will give you a wellness-related benefit. And the reason why we do that with our accident plan, our cancer plan, and our vision plan is we want to encourage policyholders to go for care and treatment. We know if someone goes for a health screening every year, early detection with cancer is so important for survival rate. We know that it's important for anyone that would go for a physical or a blood screening is probably more apt to get medical care for an injury sooner rather than later. And obviously, vision is important to monitor on an annual basis. So helping with defraying some of the expenses or giving a little bit of an enticement to go get a eye exam really seems to have people go and really take care of themselves. And that's really part of the key of this whole thing is our wellness screenings are to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves.
Right. So we've covered a lot about closing that gap in your financial risk for your own personal profile, for your personal lifestyle. It's a great benefit to any employer that's out there that's offering medical insurance and also, paying their employees. It can definitely close that gap. Is there anything that we miss? What else do you want to share with us?
I just feel that Aflac is a financial safety net for our families. And the reality is today, listen, none of us want to pay insurance premiums, ourselves included, right? We have our own personal insurance, our business insurance. But the reality is, and I've had it happen 3 times since the first of the year, when I get a phone call from an individual who's a policyholder who has taken my advice and is now having a medical situation in their household, either for themselves or a family member. I've had 2 new policyholders inform me that them or their spouse has been diagnosed with cancer. And I had another policyholder who was in a severe automobile accident who has income continuation. I know the peace of mind that they now have that I will be able to meet the financial commitment that Aflac made to them. And I know that will help them and make this difficult time a little bit easier. And that's kind of why I love what I do.
I mean, it all sounds great, Beth. Thanks so much for joining us. If you want to get a hold of Beth, you'll be able to find her at the link that we're going to share on our Facebook. We're going to be able to share this video on Beth's Facebook and YouTube, and we're just going to help get the information out there. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Aaron. Great to see you.
You too.